with. Okay? If I hear that we have over 800 LGBTQ delegates, do you all know that that is a record for the Democratic National Convention? And you all, we have over 50 transgender delegates, also a record for the Democratic National Convention. So you all, let's make sure that we are supporting diversity and inclusion. And with that, are y'all excited for our panels that are coming up? And we have some incredible speakers for you all today. But we can't do that without the energy from you all. So if you are here and you are excited to make sure that we elect not just the first woman, y'all are not ready. Are you ready to elect the first woman as president? Are you ready to elect the first Black woman as president? Are you ready to elect the first Asian woman as president? All right, you all. Don't let them tell us that we can't do it. They said the same thing about Barack Obama before he became two-term president, Barack Obama. And we're going to make sure Kamala Harris becomes the same thing. And with that, you all, we are excited to get this started. I have the great pleasure to bring up an honored guest. You all, she is the first openly trans Black woman appointed to public office in Cook County. Y'all, she is the first to serve on a water reclamation district in the U.S. Y'all gotta keep clapping. Maybe you didn't hear what I said. The first Black trans woman to have those positions. We are thankful, you all. She is a lifelong social justice advocate, communications professional, environmentalist, and author who started her professional career serving as a youth outreach coordinator at the Midwest's largest LGBTQ community resource center. You all, I am so excited to welcome to the stage Ms. Commissioner Precious Brady-Davis. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Welcome to Chicago. I'm so glad that you're here. Before I get started, hello, thank you so much for being here. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge my husband, Miles Brady-Davis. And my daughter, Zane, because people don't realize the sacrifice that your family takes on when you run for public office. I'm trying to wrestle with this microphone here, and we're just going to, so I'm just going to hold it, okay? I also want to recognize President Carrie Steele, who is the president of the Water Reclamation District here in Cook County, who is joining us. Hi, President. Thank you for joining us, President Steele. It is an incredible honor to be in your company this afternoon, and it brings me great joy to have the opportunity to welcome you to the city of Chicago, a city that means so much to me. This city is the home of the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama. A spirit of hope and change that still guides us all. We still carry it. I was proud to join our long tradition of breaking glass ceilings when last year I became the first Black trans woman to hold public office in Cook County. When I took on the role of protecting Lake Michigan, a part of the largest body of fresh water on Earth and a source of drinking water for over 5 million people. I won my primary in March. Thank you, Shane. Winning the most votes of any trans candidate in American history. I was appointed last year by Governor J.B. Pritzker, whose administration and General Assembly have passed legislation that includes LGBTQ+ education in schools.
and outlaws book bans, ensuring that you can clap for that. Ensuring that our stories are not erased. Illinois is a beacon of progressive ideals, but make no mistake, the fight for progress is not confined by state lines. In every corner of our state and nation, there are LGBTQ plus Americans whose lives are at stake. Though I am proud to call Chicago as the home that made and raised me, I will always be a native Nebraskan. I have continued to watch the progressive fight in Omaha and Lincoln and countless other communities across the country. And I'm reminded of all that hangs in the balance, no matter where you live. As a Black trans woman, a wife, and a mother, my womanhood does not invalidate the womanhood of anyone else. We, as trans people, are a part of democracy. Dividing forces may say this is about pronouns, bathrooms, and sports, but what this is really about is about the safety and sanctity of our lives. To put it plainly, trans rights are human rights. We deserve gender-affirming care, affordable housing, and economic security. Those sound like resounding American values to me. And I know Vice President Kamala Harris agrees too. Over the past 4 years, and throughout her career, Vice President Harris has shown up for the LGBTQ plus community time and time again. Whether it was prosecuting anti-LGBTQ plus violence as District Attorney of San Francisco, arguing that California's ban on same-sex marriage needed to be struck down as State Attorney General, vocally supporting the Equality Act as a U.S. Senator, or protecting access to gender-affirming care for transgender and gender non-conforming individuals, Vice President Harris has demonstrated a commitment to advancing policy that uplifts our lives. And she has chosen Governor Walz, who also was a former high school GSA advisor as a running mate. We have a pro-equality ticket. By contrast, when Trump was president, he recklessly spoke out against our community, literally declaring by tweet that trans people would be banned from serving in the military. He seeks to embolden someone like Elon Musk, who won't even acknowledge his own trans daughter, to help him abolish the Department of Education. Trump also seeks to appoint conservative judges like those who orchestrated the fall of Roe. I could go on, but we don't have to guess what will happen with another 4 years of a Trump presidency. We all lived it. But let it be known, our resolve in the Democratic Party has never been stronger. Here today, I stand on the brave shoulders of trans folks who refuse to be refused. Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and other trans people who stood in the gap for marginalized communities. It is the legendary spirit of Stonewall that propels us all forward. As Vice President Harris always says, what can be unburdened by what has been? In this moment, I think of my daughters and the future world they will inhabit. I am raising them to truly believe that they can be the change they wish to see seat in the world. What better to empower him than seeing a woman of color ascend to the highest office in the land? For this reason, I declare my steadfast and enthusiastic support to elect Kamala Harris as the next President of the United States. We find ourselves in the midst of an extraordinary moment in the canon of LGBTQ plus history. The fight is before us, and I believe we will win.
Give it up for Commissioner Precious Brady-Davis. Thank you. Yo, we are definitely gonna keep this thing going. I have the great honor. I know I look super cool, but I'm also sort of a nerd, y'all. I'm gonna own that. I will own that. I'm a Trekkie. And so I am super, okay, don't act like y'all are also Trekkies in this room. If you a Trekkie, look at this. I got a fist in the air. Put your fist in the air if you a Trekkie. Look around this room. All right, that's what I'm talking about. So you all, I get the great pleasure to introduce our next guest. He is the star of Star Trek Discovery, which gave us our first Black female captain. Okay? That's how you know I'm watching movies. Okay. Also starred in 13 Reasons Why, My So-Called Life, The Bravest Night. You all, he is an award-winning actor, producer, activist, humanitarian, who makes our children near and dear to his heart in fighting for safe schools. You all, help me give it up to the remarkable Wilson Cruz.
Chicago! You guys have to forgive me as I read this off of my phone. This little type, but I think I figured it out. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I'm so thrilled to be here with HRC. I'm so grateful for all of the work that Kelly and HRC have been doing across the country to make sure that we take advantage of this moment and create the country that we all deserve. I'm here with all of you today because we have work to do to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the next President and Vice President of the United States of America. The choices we make in this election will have very real consequences for our families, our freedoms, our future. They could not be painted in stark contrast. I think about my 18-year-old niece starting her adult life with less rights than her grandmother had. And my nephews taking part in active shooter drills in schools. My brother's marriage to his loving husband, who happens to be an immigrant. And my aging parents, who rely on their Social Security and Medicare to make ends meet every month. I think about that and how we elect in November, and who we elect in November will directly affect them and the quality of their lives. And I think about us, this resilient and vibrant community that has made so much progress just in my lifetime alone. It's the difference between an administration led by Kamala Harris that welcomes us into the conversation and with a seat at the table, that believes that everyone should be treated with respect and dignity and be able to live without fear, no matter who they are or who they love. Or an administration led by Donald Trump, who demonizes, mocks, and and endangers the lives of LGBTQ plus people, both in his language and his actions and policies as president. Every freaking day. The 4 years of the Trump administration were a nightmare. I have no interest in repeating. Every day, I'd wake up wondering what unconstitutional, un-American, and outrageous policy would await us. And this time, be sure to know that it will be worse. From attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which has improved and saved countless lives, the demonization and cruelty shown to trans people and immigrants, to overturning Roe v. Wade, jeopardizing access to IVF, seeking to ban abortion nationally, and appointing Supreme Court justices with Christian nationalist ideologies that have put same-sex marriage and all of our hard-won rights on the chopping block. Our community cannot afford another 4 years of Trump and his policies. Not what he and his fellow extremist Republicans have shown us and have been so clear about their intentions to seek retribution, undermine democracy, and turn the clock back to a time when women were chattel and LGBTQ people and people of color had no rights at all. We've come too far. Our ancestors fought too hard and gave too many of their lives for us to allow that. Not when we could elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who believe that in America, our greatest strength is our diversity, who recognize and celebrate the extraordinary courage and contributions LGBTQ plus people have made and continue to make to this country. In Kamala Harris, we have a leader who has been our unequivocal, enthusiastic ally for her entire career. I'm gonna tell you something, I lived in Los Angeles for decades, and every time she showed up on a ballot, I made sure I knew I voted for her. This is her moment. I've waited for this moment, I feel like, for 20 years. She fought with us shoulder to shoulder in our fight for marriage equality, and has been leading the fight to pass the Equality Act in Congress. And in Tim Walz, we will have a vice president who, when he was a high school teacher, as the football coach in the late 90s, was his high school's GSA faculty advisor. A fact that, as GLSEN's current board chair, fills me with pride and gratitude. Together, they will lead an administration that will strengthen and expand access to health care that LGBTQ plus people need, including challenging states in court for blocking trans youth from accessing gender-affirming care. Here with you this week, because there will come a day when we will look back at this pivotal moment in this nation's history, and we will ask ourselves what we did to secure the lives and futures of this new generation of young people that we at GLSEN advocate for every day, who rely on us to be their voice and their vote in this election. Did we fight to continue the march towards a more perfect union in which we expanded freedom and liberty here at home and abroad in the ways that those who came before us did for you and for me? Or did we sit back and let the planet's last best hope shrivel up and die under the thumb of a man, an administration, and a Republican Party that works to erase and shame us from the public square? A man who never deserved the honor to lead it, who never understood what truly makes this country great. It's people, and our courage to embrace and celebrate our diversity more and more with each passing generation. So I'm very proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you with this campaign to make sure we make the right choice this November and elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the next president and vice president of the United States of America. So let's get to work, y'all. I'll be here all week. I'm here for it, and I'll leave you with one last request. Live long and prosper, my
Y'all give it up again for Wilson Cruz. That's absolutely right. I hear that. You all listen. I know, what time is it? Is it almost 4 o'clock? 3:40. Y'all act like it's 12:40, like late at night, you all. We need energy. This cannot be the energy we take back to our communities. We need energy. I gotta say this to y'all. I heard Wilson say Donald Trump's name, and I know we say don't boo vote, but it needed to be louder boos when that name was called. Okay, we need to make sure he sees the jailhouse and not the White House. We need to make sure Kamala Harris gets that good black job in the White House. You can have the president associated with the KKK or the AKA. Y'all better get it together today. When we hear Donald Trump's name, we not just gonna boo, but we will boo, and we're gonna do what? And do what? And do what? All right, y'all need some energy, okay? We are the gayest caucus here. We are the best party at the DNC. This cannot represent our energy level, you all. It's time to turn up. Okay, you all, listen, I am excited to keep this going. I have the great pleasure to welcome to the stage next Sophia, Bush, and Jordan C. Brown, you all. Sophia, you all, is an actress, activist. I'm coming, I gotta give you your flowers. Sophia is an actress, activist, producer, and entrepreneur who has starred in television and film projects such as One Tree Hill, John Tucker Must Die, which I was watching, thank you, Chicago PD, Incredibles 2, and Good Save. Beyond entertainment, she's a dedicated activist and philanthropist, raising nearly $500,000 for causes near and dear to her heart. You all, and Jordan C. Brown is a seasoned political strategist working at the intersections of politics, technology, media, and entertainment to drive progressive social change. As the founder of One Blue Hill, he partners with culture shapers, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and elected officials to achieve innovative advocacy goals. You all, I need you to have energy as we welcome up to this stage, Sophia and Jordan.
I did bring a little musical energy for you, like a little phenomenon. For the kids on the internet. Hi everyone. I am so thrilled to be here. I'm so embarrassed to be speaking after Wilson Cruz, but I'm so happy to be here with one of my very best friends, and all of you. Kelly, thank you for organizing all of this. This is just phenomenal. Back when we were little baby politicos and knocking on doors together and trying to figure out what we were going to do to make our mark on democracy, I don't know that we could have envisioned some of the joy we witnessed, and I don't know that we could have envisioned some of the pain that Wilson so eloquently spoke to. I am elated to be here because rooms like this remind me to hold on to hope, and they remind me that hope is an action verb, and that it is the ultimate act of love to show up and show out for the people that you love. So thank you all for being here to show up and to show out. I am clearly a policy nerd. My day job is also making film and television sometimes. But the thing that excites me is that rooms like this gather us from all ends of the spectrum, and not just the alphabet letters that we represent, but the political spectrum, geography around the country. We show up here because we believe in the experiment of America. We believe in the place that my mother's mother was brought to on a boat through Ellis Island, the place that my dad came in the 70s and never left. We believe in a place where we get to have different kinds of families and different kinds of views and different kinds of futures. And I'm not only so excited as a Californian who has watched Vice President Harris hold so many incredible offices in my home state, who wept when she demanded that the marriages begin, and who is so honored to advocate, with her administration. But I'm so excited for all of us to have someone like her who wants to make sure that we're safe. I'm so excited that we have Coach Walls telling all the old white guys to shut up and mind their business, because our freedom isn't hurting any of them anyway. America is supposed to be for all of us. It's supposed to be a place where we are all protected. It's supposed to be a place where, as you mentioned, we can all do well, we can all have access to clean water, and our children can read books in schools, including banned ones, instead of having to do shooter drills. So my hope for us is that whatever it is that fires us up, including the identities that have us all in this room, as we've heard at the best party at the DNC, let's be frank, I hope that we mobilize this hope. I hope that we remember what is at stake, because I know in this room in particular, we won't survive another 4 years of the former guy. I find it deeply ironic that, we're all out here advocating for our families, and he's out there being the guy who keeps cheating on his wives and doing the things we all know he's done. Like, he tells on himself all the time. But we know we're in this room because we know, we're at the DNC because we know. And I just want to say thank you. I know we are signing up to do the work. We are not going to take our feet off the gas. It feels amazing to see this momentum and this hope, but we will not be, resting on our laurels, though they'd be fabulous. So thank you all so much for having me, for having Jordan. I'm just honored to be here and be in the fight with you.
I feel like we are doing a stand-up because we're behind the same podium, but I'm incredibly honored to be here. I just want to say first and foremost, I am such a massive fan of HRC, and I'm so grateful for all of you and your team. We get to go to the parties and the conventions, but in between, in like the middle of the terms when no one's really thinking of much, they're there every day fighting so hard, and it really means something. And I got to marry my husband last year, and I was so emotional by all of the people who, through all of their advocacy, made it possible for that moment to happen. And one of the reasons I'm here, despite, it's my 6th convention, I do love the Democrats, but my husband and I are having a baby next month. And, half the country doesn't want that to happen. And they, a lot of it is their ignorance. And when they get to know us and see us, that's how we know we win. That's how we got marriage equality. That's how it became safe to be who we are in this country. And so when people say, do you really think it's going to be that bad, for the LGBTQ plus community if Trump gets back in? He seems like, everything was fine the first time. They kind of gloss over all of those horrible things that he did to our community. But we don't have to guess. What we see in Italy happening right now is their cruel prime minister going back and editing birth certificates, not just to LGBTQ plus families, but anybody who was using IVF and surrogacy, and the cruelty of taking the parents' names off the birth certificate. And that's what these people with Project 25, they want to do stuff like that here. And we will fight. We're going to win. We're going to win because our side is an invitation to something. Come join us. We will fight for you. We include you. We love you. And their side is afraid and wants you to think that around every corner there's danger lurking. And we don't see that. Like, there's a lot of great people in this country, and I love all of you for being here, and I know how hard you fight all 4 years, and not just during the convention. So let's go fight, let's go win. I'm honored to be with you all, and thank you so much for being here.
Y'all can keep the applause going. Y'all give it up again for Sophia and Jordan. You all, I may have been remiss. We have to act activate like in our communities. If you have a cell phone in this room, put it up in the air. Don't pretend y'all were just on the phone grinder. Don't pretend, okay? I need you to text, we show up to 472-472. We show up to 472-472. So you all, while you are doing that, I have the great pleasure to say we are working hard to make sure come November, we have elected our first Black president, female president to the United States. But I get to say, y'all, I'm sorry to break it to you, I already had my first Black president, okay? At the Human Rights Campaign. I had the first Black president at the Human Rights Campaign, Black woman president of the Human Rights Campaign. You all, I get the great pleasure to introduce the first Black queer woman to lead the Human Rights Campaign in its 40-year history. Y'all, I am proud to serve shoulder to shoulder with her. She fights like hell for equality and equity. Y'all give it up for Miss Kelly Robinson!
Hey, Mr. Beyonce, y'all, one more time, you didn't hear it. Talk about the hype person our movement needs. Y'all, I am so proud to be here with you all. Do you know we are sitting in history right now? We are sitting in history. Look, I don't ever want to stop being in awe of the moment that we're in. First of all, I do have to say that in addition to representing the Human Rights Campaign, today I'm representing thick thighs for Kamala Harris. We are having meetings every day. Y'all, and I love this about us because we have the work to do, but we also have the joy in the work. And in this history-making moment, we're not going to lose the joy. Right? Our ancestors fought too hard for that. Just in my family, it's only been 3 generations since my family was enslaved in Mississippi. It's only been 3 generations since we fought our way to freedom to be the first free Black family in Muscatine, Iowa. And now today I'm standing before you as the first Black queer woman to lead the Human Rights Campaign. And then we're in this room getting ready to elect the first Black and South Asian president of the United States of America. You can't tell me change isn't happening. You can't tell me progress isn't possible because we are living proof of it every single day. And I need us to be clear. Lesbian, gay, bi, trans, and queer people, we have always been at the forefront of that progress and change in the United States of America. You better remember, there's no civil rights movement without Byron Rustin, y'all. There's no Stonewall without Marsha P. Johnson and Sophia Rivera, y'all. And there ain't no fast car without Tracy Chapman, y'all. We are here, we will always be here, and we are not going back. And in this moment, we got to be clear that everything that we fought for is at stake. You see exactly what they plan to do to us and to everybody that we love and we care about. Look, Donald Trump may have mastered the come-over, but he cannot cover up his terrible policies, right? We know who he is. We know what he is trying to do. No, he's trying to ban our marriages. He's trying to ban our healthcare. He's trying to erase us, especially our trans family, from existence, and we are not going to let it happen. And I am clear that we are powerful in rooms like this. 800 LGBTQ plus delegates. 800 of us. There are 75 million voters that prioritize LGBTQ plus issues when deciding who to vote for. A third of Generation Z identifies as a member of this community. Y'all, we got them scared. They are scared of us. And you know how I know it? Because you don't spend billions of dollars trying to suppress the votes of people that you're not afraid of. You don't spend millions of dollars trying to attack the lives of people you're not afraid of. So we got to be clear that we are in a position right now not just to win for today or to win for this election year, but to win for generations to come. In the words of the Reverend Dr. Beyonce Knowles Carter, we won't let our freedoms rot in hell, will we? Y'all know the rest of the song? We gonna keep running, cuz a winner don't quit on themselves. Okay, I got some beehives over here. I got to. But y'all, in this moment, we gotta embrace the power that we have and recognize that November 5th, that's gotta do everything that we can, every day that we can between now and then to win. You can still register to vote in a lot of states. Early vote is starting in a couple of weeks. The election is happening right now in front of us, and the decision is ours. If those 75 million quality voters turn out, we win, period. It's up to us to decide. My friends, we can have state houses that scapegoat trans kids, or we can have state houses that support those kids and their families. We just have to show up. So we can have a Congress that keeps hating on pregnant people, or a Congress that codifies Roe v. Wade into law. We just have to show up. So we can have a 34-time convicted felon, wannabe white nationalist dictator, or we can have a White House that looks like American fights for all of us. We just have to. We just have to. We just have to. Yes, that's what this election is all about. So thank you all for coming out, not just today, but every single day. And I want to end my remarks by giving a little love and flowers to somebody who deserves it. Is Earl Fowlkes in the room? Come on up here. Come on now. Come on, Chairman. Anyone that knows Earl Fowlkes, the chair of the DNC's LGBTQ Caucus and the CEO, President Emeritus of the Center for Black Equity, knows that he is a fighter and has been fighting for decades to get to a moment like this where we can be the deciders of our own future. As you make your way up, I'm going to continue to just spray some glitter on you, okay? All right? 25 years ago, Earl founded the Center for Black Equity to advocate for Black LGBTQ communities all across the globe. For 25 years, his steadfast and dedicated leadership has moved the fight for racial equity forward in all areas of our lives. He is an HIV and AIDS activist, a Democratic champion, and a pillar of the DC community. In fact, just last month, the mayor declared July 1st Earl Fowlkes Jr. Day in Washington, D.C. When you think of Black Pride, you need to be thinking of Earl Fowlkes. When you think about the Democratic Party and our power, you need to be thinking about Earl Fowlkes. When you think about this moment, you need to be thinking about the legacy is Earl Fowlkes Jr. So today, we want to present him with a surprise award on behalf of the Human Rights Campaign to thank you for your years, your decades of dedicated leadership and service. Get on your feet because we are celebrating Chairman Earl Fowlkes Jr. He's blushing a little bit. We did our job well. Earl, thank you so much. We appreciate you, we love you, and we honor you. I'm gonna hand the mic back to our wonderful MC today, Nick Harris.
Y'all give it up again for our President Kelly Robinson and Earl Fowlkes. Now I get to welcome to the stage our first panel, who is going to talk about how we reach these LGBTQ equality voters. There are 75 million across the country. We are joined today by Guy Cecil, the president of Miles Strategies and a leading Democratic political strategist, also serving as chief strategist for the HRC Equality Votes Pact and Cycle. Y'all give it up for Guy. We're going to welcome Charlotte Clymer, an activist, military veteran. Thank you for your service. And author of the popular blog, Charlotte's Web. Also politics, religion, and culture, and a former HRC National Press Secretary. You all give it up for Charlotte. Thank you. Next, we're going to welcome Keith Edwards, Democratic digital and communication strategist, who served as senior digital advisor to John Ossoff's Senate campaign. Thank you. Next, we're going to welcome Blair Imani, you all, creator of Smarter in Seconds and LA Times author and historian. And we are going to welcome HRC's very own Justin Uncle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to DNC. Don't worry, we will make sure that you have one. How's everybody doing? All right. We're going to talk about the power of equality voters. That's all of you. Get ready for that power. And we're going to jump right in. Panel's looking good. I'm going to call this the blush tones panel. Audience is looking good. First question is for you, Guy. HRC measures what we call equality voters. These are a subset of voters, LGBTQ plus and allies, who prioritize, to Kelly's point, LGBTQ plus inclusive policies when making decisions at the ballot box. As of this year, we have 75 million equality voters across the country. Listen up, y'all. Just to name a few states. 1.4 million in Arizona, my home state. Equality voters. 2.2 in Georgia. 2.3 million in Michigan. 560,000 in Nevada. 4 million in Pennsylvania. Our swing states. We got some Pennsylvanians in the room. I promise there's a question here, Guy. These voters are younger, more racially diverse, and more female than the general electorate. Guy, you have worked on many campaigns, statewide and national, in your career. How have you seen LGBTQ plus voters grow as a voting bloc? And why is it so important that organizations like HRC and our allies reach them? And finally, what role do you see equality voters playing in this year's election?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. Compared to when I first started in politics, we aren't in a new chapter of LGBTQ plus power. It is a completely different book. I actually volunteered on my first campaign and became a staffer after I left the Southern Baptist ministry after coming out. It turns out Southern Baptist minister and gay don't go well together. No, and I moved to Boston to work on a campaign. And even in Boston, this was in the late 90s, and we were all sitting around and someone said, oh, we have this survey to fill out from the gay group. Who's going to take care of that? And oh, the Pride Parade is coming up and we need somebody to coordinate that, and there's this endorsement thing, who's going to do that? And no surprise, there was no LGBTQ paid staffer. And so because I was, though barely out, I was still relatively out as type A person, I decided that the brand new baby gay former Southern Baptist minister who had never lived in the city would do a good job basically outing himself and becoming the LGBTQ coordinator. And then for the next 15 years, you saw slow but very painful change. And so whenever you were working on a Senate race or a governor's race, and it was time to talk about the gays, we didn't get all the initials in like 98 and 2000, and it was time to talk about how we were going to mitigate damage and sidestep questions and have conversations where we would commit to be committed in private, but publicly we just weren't ready. They would try to find the LGBTQ staffer to have that difficult conversation. And there weren't rooms like this. There weren't conversations like this. We didn't have DJs cheering us on. We didn't have a lot of elected officials in those places. So to come to this place, it is a remarkable change in our history. But the most important change is that we went from asking for and hoping for respect and resources to demanding respect and expecting resources, because LGBTQ voters and the 75 million equality voters are actually the difference between winning and losing. Remember, we barely lost in 2016 and we barely won in 2020. Equality voters were the difference in every single battleground state that Hillary lost and Joe Biden won. And they will be the difference in determining whether or not Donald Trump wins or Kamala Harris wins. And so we have an enormous amount of power because, as you mentioned, we don't just have our community. We have 4 million people in Pennsylvania that are saying, I'm willing to prioritize LGBTQ issues as voting issues. We have 600,000 in Nevada that will say, this is my priority when making a decision about who am I going to vote for and whether I'm going to turn out. And unlike 1998, we actually can reach them where they get their news and information if we invest the resources to do it. And so this is a matter of campaigns prioritizing us, not just because it's the right thing to do, because frankly, most campaigns aren't always motivated solely by the right thing to do. It is because it is the thing that will help them win this election at every level of the ballot.
Love to hear it. Thank you, guys. Charlotte Primer, next question for you. We're here to talk about the power of LGBTQ plus voters and equality voters, but without a doubt, LGBTQ plus people are under attack. Yep. More than 120 anti-LGBTQ plus bills have passed in state legislatures over the past 2 years, most of them targeting transgender kids. We've also seen Donald Trump and J.D. Vance attack trans people in their political speeches. How do you recommend that transgender people fight back, push back, and how do we, very importantly, break through this negativity?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. First of all, shout out to all my HRC family. Y'all are killing it. Human Rights Campaign just does the work, and I'm so proud to now. Really quickly, I want to get this out of the way. How many of y'all live in Chicago? That's a lot. You need to vote for Commissioner Brady-Davis. Get your family to vote, get your friends to vote, get your relatives to vote. I love that woman. I'm going to flip it back on you for a second. How do non-trans people get into the fight to protect trans rights? That's what I want to hear. That's a great question, believe me. But listen, there's actually a pretty big solution that helps us all, passing the Equality Act. Federal legislation that would make it possible to have non-discrimination protections in every state and territory in the United States, hands down, without question. If Secretary Buttigieg starts driving from Michigan, where he lives, to LA, he is going to have a change in the rights to which he's entitled in every county, state, and city he drives through. It's a patchwork of rights that every LGBTQ American lives under. And we can fix that. We can make it so there's not discrimination in housing or credit or public accommodations or jury service. That is something we can do. All we need is a workable majority in Congress and a president who can sign that bill into law. That's all we need. That's all we need now. Universal non-discrimination protections. So here's how I want everyone to fight back. I want you to register to vote. I want everyone in this room to become an influencer. Meaning, go on social media, pick up your phone, organize a gathering at your house, get your friends, your families, your neighbors to make sure they vote, and also have awareness of LGBTQ equality and the lack of non-discrimination protections. And by the way, we are going to take back the House in November. That's going to happen. And we will have our first openly trans member of Congress right over here, Sarah. And we're going to hold the Senate. I've been saying that for a year now. We are going to hold the Senate. People always tell me, come on, that's a bit of a stretch. No, it's not. If we do the work that needs to be done, if we follow the example of Vice President Harris and Governor Walz, we can take back the House, hold the Senate, hold the White House, and get these non-discrimination protections passed once and for all. We can do that. So that's what I want us to do.
It sounds like you're asking us to show up.
Show up.
We're not going back. Okay. Next question, Mr. Keith Edwards. How has the digital political landscape changed in the last 4 weeks? What context are we existing in?
Great question. Well, I think we all know a lot has changed in 4 weeks. I don't know about you, but I was terrified 5 weeks ago. I was not feeling great, and I am feeling good today. Very, very good. It is interesting how quickly things can change. But that's also the beautiful thing about politics, is that one day it can be raining out, and the next day it can be sunny. But when it's a sunny day, you better go outside and enjoy it, because we don't know what's going to rain out again. What I will say, that I think the moment we find ourselves, especially as the context is online, on the internet, is it's such a powerful thing. I think we were all so used to being against something, against Donald Trump. And I don't know about you, but I was getting kind of sick of it. This is the same story over and over again. Like, how mad can you get? And I think what I have found, at least with my content and the clients I work with, is that it's such a much more powerful thing to be for something. To be for Kamala Harris. To be for Coach Walls. You know, I was sick. I was just sick of having to be negative. And it's so nice to say, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe the country can be. And this person represents my values, and I will do everything I can to make sure she is elected. She is elected. So I will say that for me, I think one of the best things I found that I can do now is I don't have to tell the same story again about Donald Trump. We all know who he is. We're not going to convince anyone anything differently. What we can do is tell people who Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are, because they don't know. They don't know. She's a blank slate. I mean, we know, because we are crazy people are sitting in the HRC panel, you know, and what time is it? 4/11 on August 19th. We're interesting people, you know, but not everyone knows who Kamala Harris is. And so even Charlotte's right, each one of you can be influencers in your own way, because you talking to your community online has it's much more valuable than someone like me. They'll listen to you. You might disregard what I said because it's coming from a Democratic strategist. So I would suggest that take advantage of the hope and the optimism and the joy and speak positively about Kamala Harris and let other people talk negatively about Donald Trump. That's all I got.
Thank you, Keith. Everybody can influence us today and every day because we're going to show up. Yes? Hello, Blair. How are we doing? Why don't you turn that mic on?
Oh, there you go. All right. Hi, how are you
Ask
doing?
a question.
Yes.
Tell me, Blair, tell me a little bit about how you're leveraging your platform to organize and educate audiences. What are some of the common trends that we're seeing?
Well, so little known fact, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And what I love about what HRC is doing here is that it's not big capital LGBTQ plus. It's lowercase, it's BRAT, it's people bringing forward, and I will explain that eventually. I like that the young people get to have secrets these days. But what I think is so important is that the people who are making up HRC are people who have been doing this work on the ground. It's not coastal elites who stay in New York and LA, it's people who are on the ground knocking doors, doing the grassroots work. It's people like my friend Brandon Wolf, who was one of the survivors of the Pulse nightclub shooting, who is now a full-time staffer at HRC. It is people like Kelly Robinson, who I worked with when I was at Planned Parenthood. The branding is still in point, as we know. But I think that's really what the shift is. The people who have been on the ground doing this work, grassroots, the people who grew up seeing time after time mass shootings in their schools, doing those drills themselves, are now eligible to vote. And they are fed up and pissed as hell. They had to miss graduation because somebody couldn't handle a pandemic. They're sick of they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but they're also so adept at finding joy amidst the mess. They are adept at creating their own language, their own memes, their own communication. And I think that we finally shifted, speaking of political strategy, from telling the young people that they don't want to vote and finally teaching them how the heck to get to the polls. And I think that's really the shift that we're seeing here. I've done my micro-series videos. I create a series called Smarter in Seconds, where my promise is that I will teach you in 90 seconds or less about these issues that matter, because the average person doesn't have time to sit through a TED Talk. We have to meet them where they're at. If you can learn this dance from TikTok, I need you to learn about intersectionality theory, okay? If you can learn that you fell out of a coconut tree because of a viral video, I need you to learn what racism is, okay? I just did a video about reverse racism, so go check that out, no pressure. And how it doesn't exist. But think that's what the trend is that we've gotten adept. We're listening to young people. We are at such a different place than we were in 2016. Instead of beating that same drum of saying young people are apathetic, they don't care, they don't want to vote. We're dismissing that. The young people themselves are speaking up. They're running their own events. They're calling me auntie, even though I'm only 30, I can't handle it. But they're enthusiastic, and I will give them forgiveness for that. And so that's what the trend is. They are creating the trends, they're moving it forward, and they're overwhelmingly progressive. Just like myself, being a bisexual woman, they are also part of the queer community. They are also vocal. They are happy to walk through the, contradiction of being a person of faith. I myself being a Muslim and also being bisexual. They're sick of trying to live these scripts. They are being their full selves all the time. And we finally have a big enough tent that accommodates them, and that's visibilized through all of the people sitting here in this room. And so it's just a matter of us encouraging those folks, continue to move forward with those folks. Being an influencer, that's my full-time job. Y'all ain't gotta do it full-time. All you need to do, you're allowed to post links online. Tell people to go to vote.gov. Teach people in your friend group about how to critically think when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, to read the whole article, Mom, before you share it. And so I think those are the other trends that are happening too, but more than anything is the excitement. I'm one of 200 content creators who's been allowed to come to the DNC this year and cover the event as press. I got to interview Governor Gretchen Whitmer this morning. I'm fired up and ready to go. Big Gretch, okay? And so there's new things happening that have never happened before, but it's also coming from a generation of people whose jobs didn't exist 5 years ago.
Thank you, Blair. Very demure, very mindful.
Very intentional, very polite.
One more question, and we'll let one person volunteer for this, and then we're going to wrap it up. Everybody, this is about anything that we've seen as new. What is a new tactic you've seen online this cycle to reach voters that excites you? I'll take a volunteer. Anybody want to take this one? A new tactic, or one that you think is particularly strategic?
Okay, a new tactic I think that's really important is, so the overnight success, and now I get to talk about Brad. This is an album that really captures the fact that so many people are sick of the overproduction of the music industry. They're so sick of seeing what they call industry plans. People who just join the industry, suddenly have a rocket strapped to their back and are leading. We got Brad right in the back, there we go. But when Charlie XCX tweeted that Kamala Harris is Brad, what that really means is that she's of the culture, she's of the people. How many people knew that there was a rap beef happening this year between Kendrick Lamar and that guy Drake, okay? Thank goodness we're cultured out here in these streets. When Kendrick said, I'm what the culture feels, when he took people smarter in seconds and talked about what it was like for Drake as a colonial person to come in and take a culture and try to co-opt it, he's saying, hey, they not like us. And what we're saying is that Kamala Harris is, okay? This is the difference. We have people who are of the culture, who have been in it, who went to Howard, who's part of the AKAs, but also knows that young people are sick of the bullshit. They're sick and tired of the production. They're sick and tired of the pageantry. They want it to break through. That's what rap's all about. That's also what being demure and polite's all about. There's this rapidly moving movement of young people being able to create their own trends to decide what's cool. And what ultimately is what I love about it so much is that it's everything that you might have been made fun of for, they're leaning into it and they're thriving. Whether that is being gay, whether that is being Muslim, whether that's being a woman, whether that's being more feminine or, having a little bit of a limp wrist on occasion. It doesn't matter, the young people are there for it. So I think that's the newest thing. Is the newedness itself. It's young people not waiting for permission to lead, it's them stepping into their own power. And that's something we could all learn from.
We're into it. All right, y'all, 1 minute to spare. Let's give it up for this panel. Remember to text. We show up to 472-472 and let us show up together. Thank you, panel. Nick here, and turn it back to you, my friends.
Y'all give it up again for our amazing panel. Y'all, we're going to keep this going. I have the great privilege and honor, I keep saying that, but I really do, to introduce another trailblazer. State Senator Sarah McBride is running for Congress in Delaware. And not if, you all, but when she wins. When she wins, she's going to be the first ever transgender member of Congress. You all, this is history. So listen to me, Sarah isn't new to this work at all. She's been advocating for the community for decades, from her work to Governor Markell to the late Attorney General Beau Biden. as well as being HRC's very own National Press Secretary, to her time in the state Senate passing legislation to expand access to health care, promoting green technologies, and passing the landmark Healthy Delaware Families Act. Sarah is the embodiment of what it means to be a public servant. You all, I am thrilled to welcome to the stage not just a friend, but our very next member of Congress, first only out transgender woman to join Congress. We know it's gonna happen. We're claiming it. Y'all give it up right now for Sarah McBride. I'm gonna call you already Congresswoman Sarah McBride. You claim what you want. Congresswoman Sarah McBride.
Thank you so much, Nick. Can we give Nick a round of applause? Thank you so much for that incredibly warm welcome. Are you all fired up? I am certainly fired up because hope and history is in the air this week in Chicago. And hope and history is in the air in this room. As I look out on this crowd, I see so many folks who become like family to me. Of course, my former colleagues at the Human Rights Campaign, they are amazing. Let's give them a round of applause for bringing us together. The incomparable Kelly Robinson, the amazing HRC president, joyful warrior that she is. And as I look out on this crowd, I see folks who are role models to me. I see folks who have blazed trails. I see Marissa Richmond, who has made a place in the Democratic Party for trans people like me, through her tireless advocacy. Thank you. Hope and history. That is what this week is about. And I know we all come together to this space, to this city, to this cause, for the same reasons. Because we know what is at stake. We know what is at stake in this election. Yes, we know what is at risk. We know who Donald Trump is. He's the same man who governed through pettiness and grievance for 4 long years. He's the same incompetent, insecure trust fund baby that he has always been. He is the same person for 4 years, targeted LGBTQ rights, voting rights, workers' rights, abortion rights, every step of the way. And we know that with 4 years of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, our community will be in the crosshairs. Because we don't have to look any further than their Project 2025 agenda. We don't have to look any further than what MAGA extremists are doing in state legislatures across the country. Because there is a cruel and concerted effort right now in this moment to target some of the most vulnerable but badass members of our community, trans young people. These politicians are seeking to manufacture culture wars, to put a target on the backs of young trans people, to rip away parents and providers, coaches and classmates, teammates and teachers, leaving them isolated, telling them that they don't belong. We know what is at risk. But as this panel just talked about, elections aren't just about what's at risk. They are also about what's possible. And we know in this room what is possible if we elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We know what is possible if we make Hakeem Jeffries the next Speaker of the House. We know what is possible if we keep the United States Senate. We know what is possible for our cause. It's finally getting the Equality Act to a pro-equality president's desk as soon as humanly possible. It's clear non-discrimination protections. It's a federal government that continues to have trans young people's backs as MAGA extremists continue to target them at the state level. But it's also progress that our community needs because we are human beings. It's progress that delivers a more livable wage. It's progress that delivers affordable childcare and housing for every family. It's progress that delivers universal health care for every patient. It's progress that delivers paid family and medical leave for every person in this country. It's progress that protects reproductive freedom and bans assault weapons at the federal level. That is what's possible. That is what's possible if we continue to summon our faith and our fight to win this election in November. Because that's right. Because we have in our hands the capacity this week in Chicago, for the next several weeks moving forward, and this November, to do as the Irish poets called on us to do, which is to make it this election hope and history rhyme. We have the opportunity in this election to show an LGBTQ young person, and in particular, a trans young person, in my home state of Delaware, or in North Carolina, or in Texas, or in Florida, that our president and our vice president continue to have their backs. That here in America, they belong. They belong in our communities, they belong in our schools, they belong in our houses of worship, they belong in our workplaces, and yes, they even belong in the halls of Congress. Thank you all very much. It's an honor to be here. Let's go win this thing.
Y'all give it up again for our soon-to-be Congresswoman, Sarah McBride. You all, we're gonna go right into our next panel. This is the last piece we're gonna give you all just to close out our program, but we get to bring to you some real powerhouses for the movement. These folks are building power, you all building political power, and they are organizing to ensure that freedom and liberation without exception is achieved every day. You all, please help me welcome to the stage Rodrigo Hang Layton, Executive Director of Advocates for Trans Equality. Y'all keep it going. Anise Parker, President and CEO of the LGBTQ Victory Fund. Dr. Marissa Richmond, member of the Metro Historical Commission and co-chair of the Transgender Advisory Committee of the Democratic National Committee. She also previously served as the first and only transgender person of color on the Democratic National Committee. And you all, let's welcome back our very own president of the Human Rights Campaign, Kelly Robinson. Well, our president gets Beyonce every time she gets up. So you all, we're going to jump right into some questions. My first question is for you, Rodrigo. Earlier this year, Advocates for Trans Equality was founded as the National Center for Trans Equality and Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund. Two longtime champions for the trans community merged together as one organization. Talk to the audience about why this move was so important now, given all the attacks facing our trans community. And on that note, hosted a Trans Folks for Harris call last week. Let's talk about the growing power of the trans movement.
Well, first of all, thank you for being our MC today, keeping the energy up. Thank you, Nick. And thank all of you for joining us here today. I think this is truly history in the making. I'm so excited to be part of it with my fellow panelists. So yeah, I'm the Executive Director of Advocates for Trans Equality, and we are a brand new organization. We're from the merger of two national trans rights organizations. And the reason we came together is because as the attacks against trans people are growing, we knew we needed to grow just as aggressively to fight back. A lot of people don't realize that attacks against transgender people have been on the rise dramatically in recent years, both in the streets, as in outright physical attacks, physical violence, and in state legislatures all across the country. You know, for many, many years in our movement, we would average somewhere around maybe 40 anti-LGBT bills in state legislatures. And then in 2020, we suddenly saw a spike of over 120 anti-LGBT bills, and most of those were anti-trans specifically, even more narrowly going after transgender youth. Some of the most vulnerable people in our community were being squarely targeted by the opposition. And let's be clear, they're going after trans people because they're trying to go after all LGBT people. And they see going after some of the most misunderstood people under the LGBT umbrella as a way to erode all of the rights and protections that all of us here in this room benefit from today. And then fast forward all the way to just last year, 2023, we faced over 500 anti-LGBT bills, most of them anti-trans, most of them specifically trans youth. So Andy Mera, my counterpart at TILDEF, and me at NCTE, we really realized this is a time where we need to consolidate the forces. We need to be twice as strong, twice as influential, twice as powerful. So that's why we merged to become advocates for trans equality. And then, we got to partner with HRC and a lot of our other partners here on this stage to make the Trans Folks for Harris call last week. I see a lot of familiar faces here. The Senator Sarah McBride joined us. Honey Mahogany, who I saw earlier, we had a lot of trans folks in our community join us with Trans Folks for Harris. And it was such a great opportunity to show the political power of transgender people at this time. We may be under attack, but we are also fighting back and succeeding in it. So I'm really honored to be part of that.
Thank you. My next question is for you, Ms. Parker. You are in the final months as president and CEO of LGBTQ Plus Victory Fund and LGBTQ Plus Victory Institute. You will be departing the organization this December after 7 incredible years of leadership. I am a Victory Fellow and I thank you for everything you have done. The organization has experienced incredible growth under your tenure. You were also the first openly LGBTQ plus mayor of a major city in America, Houston, Texas. Shout out to Beyonce's home. What are the biggest changes you've seen in terms of LGBTQ plus representation in elected office, and why does that matter so much to our movement as a whole?
So I've been doing this work since the early 70s. Nobody has to do any math. It's a long day. Nobody has to do any math. I'm 68 years old, and I started as a college student in the early 70s. I'm not quite the Stonewall generation, but I was right after it. And I want to tell you the difference then and now. Then we were all individual activists on our own little activist islands in our own little communities, and we had no freaking idea what was going on in the next city over or across the country. I know there's this sense that Stonewall happened and it spread across the country. That's just complete BS. Stonewall happened and this little whisper started, and it grew, and we learned, and we looked back and we preserved our history, but we were all on our own little islands reinventing the wheel constantly and not knowing whether we were making any progress together. What has changed is that we can find each other, we can organize with each other, we can use our collective power in ways we never had the ability to do back in the 70s and the 80s. What has not changed is that we're still under attack. And what has not changed is our children are still killing themselves. And what has not changed is the most vulnerable segments of our broader community are those that are under attack. And it's deliberate. Now, Victory has a very narrow place in the movement, and I wish I could say I'm here. I personally have endorsed Kamala Harris. Victory cannot and will not, because unless she's gonna come out, she's not our mission. Now, I wish, but I don't think that's gonna happen. We are the only national organization devoted solely to putting LGBT leaders into public office. We don't do policy, we don't do lobbying, we just do people from our community, trying to move our people into leadership. And what you will find, in 1974, the first LGBT person was elected to office as an out individual. here in America. There are about 1,300 now. That is amazing progress, and it is absolutely pathetic. Think about that. 40 years, we've gone from 1 to 1,300. There are hundreds of thousands of political positions open every year across America. And we're trying as hard as we can to fill those positions. But what is exciting is that I believe that as we energize people to vote for those down ballot races for our amazing out LGBT leaders, it'll help push up the entire ticket. I'm all for Kamala Harris and the energy and the excitement and the coattails, but there's a push-up effect in politics as well. And there are a lot of people who don't get the big picture of how important this election is, but they will show up to vote for their school board candidate that's going to keep gay books on the shelves. And they will show up for their city council candidate that's going to protect their non-discrimination ordinance. So I hope you'll visit our website and take a look at some of the amazing people who are running and find out a little more about what we're doing to push the entire ticket forward. So thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for you, Dr. Richmond. As a recently retired professor of history and women's and gender studies at Middle Tennessee State University, can you help us put this moment that we're in now in context? And what do you see is at stake for our trans community in this election, and does this moment feel different to you?
Well, first off, it's a pleasure to be here. I thank the Human Rights Campaign for inviting me from the fascist theocracy of Tennessee. And also, I'd like to note today is Transgender Pride and Flag Day. I just retired, as you noted, after 32 years in the classroom. In my last few years, I was telling my students, congratulations, you've registered for an illegal class, because the state of Tennessee is one of those many states that banned teaching of diversity. And I was teaching both African American history and LGBTQ history. And so I was proudly telling my students that I'm a criminal, and by taking this class, you're participating in a criminal activity. And that's where we are in many states. In Tennessee, passed more anti-LGBTQ laws than any other single state. 15 just the past 3 years. Most of them targeted at trans people. We've got lawsuits fighting to protect Title IX. Of course, there's a lawsuit trying to criminalize over a law that criminalizes drag queens. There's a lawsuit that I'm involved in that involves the criminalization of healthcare for trans youth. And with school just starting up this month, we're now sending warnings out that school teachers are now required to out transgender and non-binary students. So this is the reality of life for LGBTQ students, and in particular transgender people in Tennessee. And so for this particular year in this election, not only is it critical that we elect a pro-equality administration in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, but I'm also pointing out to people, since a lot of these cases are in court, that it's important that we also elect a pro-equality Senate. In Tennessee, we do have a U.S. Senate race, and our incumbent Senator, Magda Marshall Blackburn, is actively running ads against transgender people, particularly highlighting the threat to transgender swimmers in our society. Of course, I don't know how many transgender swimmers you have polluting your waters in your particular states. I don't know of any in Tennessee. She's running ads anyway. But we do thankfully have a pro-equality candidate running for the U.S. Senate. But when we do see those maps across the country, we know Tennessee is always painted solidly red. And so we're sometimes overlooked. But we're going to keep fighting, and we urge for those of you who are in battleground states to stand up and elect a pro-equality president, a pro-equality Senate, and if you want to help us and send some money into our candidates in Tennessee, we've got a lot of good candidates, including LGBTQ candidates running, and we need your help because we need those positive role models in our legislature, in our city councils, in our school boards. We just elected a gay man to the school board in Nashville, and we need to make sure that we eventually elect a pro-equality president and vice president.
So my next question is for you, Madam President. I love that. We need to be saying that all the time after November. So you just heard from Dr. Richmond talking about how terrible things are in Tennessee, but if we are dealing with the Trump presidency, we're also talking about how terrible Project 2025 is. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance would be also for this country and for democracy as a whole. When you think about what is possible for our community, if voters and allies, I'm gonna say when voters and allies show up, from the White House to state houses, what is the world that you imagine?
I just wanna.
All right, well, I want to start with kind of picking up where you left off. I mean, I don't know if some of our opposition studied Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, but they are weaponizing intersectionality chapter and verse towards us, right? Using old tactics and strategies, attacking bathrooms, attacking swimming pools, attacking our education. I mean, all of the things they're doing, especially as a Black queer person in the United States of America, it is offensive for us to not explicitly call out that an intersectional attack demands an intersectional, full-throated response, because all of our faiths are intertwined. So thank you so much for saying that. And for me, when I think about the other side of it, it just comes back that people don't try to attack you along these lines if they're not afraid of your power. We are looking at the most diverse generations that this country has ever seen coming into power right now. A third of Generation Z identify as members of the LGBTQ plus community. We will be a majority minority country in the next several years. All of this is emerging and it scares the hell out of some people. But for me, it makes me incredibly excited about the possibility. So when I think about what could be possible if we vote this election, it's the simple things. I talked to a trans kid in Arizona earlier this week that's getting ready to go to his first prom. That wouldn't be an anomaly, but instead the expectation and right of every trans youth. I talked to a couple in Pennsylvania this week who have been together by love for 29 years, but married by law for the last 9 years. And that their existence doesn't have to be questioned in the terms of the law, and their federal benefits would be available to everyone. I talked to an out gay service member today that he doesn't have to worry about his status and his ability to serve based on a tweet that could come from a former president. This is the reality that we're fighting for us to live, for us to exist, to fight against the erasure that they are so desperately hoping for. So for me, I am really hopeful because I think Governor Walz says this often, that it's really an opportunity to be alive at moments like this where the actions that you take can determine the outcomes for future generations. You know, I grew up in the reproductive rights movement, particularly with some of our Indigenous colleagues, and they talked a lot about the 7-generation ideology. The idea that at any moment we're sitting in this middle generation, and our existence is only possible because of the actions taken 3 generations before us. But also, that whatever we do today will determine the hopes and dreams of possibilities for people that are coming after us 3 generations from now. So in moments like this, we get to be a part of the change. And I think that to me is a hope and responsibility that we are sitting in every single moment of every single day, not only this year, but for the years to come.
That is a wonderful answer, Kelly. I'm going to keep your mic. You often say that they are afraid, folks are afraid of our power. When we know we have to dramatically shift and build more power, what does that look like for you all? What does building that power look like? And I'm going to say take 30 seconds for each panelist to answer that.
Well, I got to go to some insight I got from a former pastor of mine. She said sometimes she thinks that, you know, white, cisgender, straight males, like part of the reason they're afraid of our emerging communities is they're worried that we are going to treat them as horribly as they've treated us all these hundreds of years. And that's not the goal. Sorry, that's not why I said that. But I think that the goal that we do have is, as the mayor here, the first Black mayor of Chicago said, Earl, Washington, one of my icons, is to be fairer than fair. We can't just worry about protecting democracy. In this moment, we've got to reimagine with people that look and love like us at the center. And I think for us right now, it's about reimagining freedom and this American story in a way that is more revolutionary than what our founders actually put down on that little piece of paper, but instead is the type of democracy that is by and for all of the people of this country. That's the opportunity that we have.
Dr. Rich, the same question for you. How do you think about power? 30
We need
seconds.
more elected officials, more appointed officials. We need more people organizing at the grassroots level in every community. That's how we build power.
Keep it going.
Absolutely. You know, I started out as an activist, and there's a place for people to take to the streets, and our voices have power, and we need to stand up, and we need to speak up, and we need to protest when it is appropriate. But power is being in the room where the final decision is made. And that's why we focus on putting elected leaders into those rooms where the actual decision is made, the laws are crafted, and the vote is cast.
To me, power is basically about the ability to change things. Do you have enough authority and influence to be able to make change? I'm really excited that I think this is the generation for trans people that is really mobilizing in a bigger way than we ever have before to build our power. I mean, one of the big things we do at Advocates for Trans Equality is the US Transgender Survey. And in our most recent survey, we found that our survey respondents, trans people, registered to vote at almost 10 percentage points higher than the general population. And turned out to vote in the last presidential election at almost 10 percentage points higher than the general population. I mean, we're a group of people that face a lot of barriers to voting, and we're still registering, and we're still casting a ballot, and we're still finding ways to get it done. So that, to me, is what power is all about.
So you all, this is the last question, and I'm thinking about the audience in which you are speaking to, and I want you to think about that. You all are the leaders of our movement. What do you want folks to leave this room and this convention thinking, doing, or feeling? What is it you want them to take away from this convention here and back to their communities? Rodrigo, I'm going to start with you.
Sure, I'll keep it really short and simple for the sake of time. I want every person here to go to transformthevote.org and check your registration and get 5 of your friends to do it too. Because yeah, you gotta register to vote, but then you have to keep that shit updated. Every time you move, you should make sure that your current address is on there. And let's be real, a lot of us forget because life is busy. So check your registration and make sure your friends do it too. And especially if you're trans and you've ever legally changed your name, we have resources specifically crafted to help you figure that out in case you have any questions. Address change and name change does not need to be a barrier. We're here to help. So transformthevote.org, get 5 of your friends to do it too.
Perfect. Next for you.
Keep coming out, keep coming out, keep coming out. You know, one of the reasons I changed my hair a few years ago, this is not mayor hair, this is my activist hair. Thank you. Is that I don't want to have to keep coming out, but I have to keep coming out. And this is one way to not have conversations. People just assume. But the real answer is we have to keep being visible and present, not just in rooms like this, but in rooms that are much harder, the intimate spaces in our lives, with our families, with the cousin who we really don't want to get along with very well, or we really don't get along with very well, but we need to have conversations. We need to talk about the reality of our lives, naturally and over and over and over again, in as many spaces as we can. That is what has transformed the world in the modern rights movement. It's not the marches or the protests or even the people in the rooms of power. It's the individuals who live their truth over and over again in places where it wasn't safe. We have to keep doing that.
Keep being visible and to be outspoken when necessary, and don't let anybody think that it's acceptable to be hateful towards any group or any person at any time.
Yes, I'm with them. I'm with my panel here. Keep showing up. Show up every day to volunteer. Show up and show out to vote. Show up on Inauguration Day, and then show up in everybody whose offices you've elected to let them know to whom they are accountable. And in rooms like this, we got to be clear. We're not settling for anything short of full equality and freedom for every single member of our community, no matter what.
You all, that is the end of this incredible panel. Give it up again, you all. Give it up for our DJ Shay, Rodrigo, Anise, Dr. Richmond, President Robinson, we thank you, and we thank all of you. If you're wondering where to get these awesome Harris Walls HRC t-shirts, it's in McCormick Place. Do not leave without getting one. Give it up again, y'all. Thank you.